I say, let us wait. John Dickinson of Pennsylvania stood on this spot July 1st, 1776, and begged the Continental Congress to be reasonable. The time is not yet ripe for proclaiming independence. Instead of help from foreign powers, it will bring us disaster. I say we ought to hold back any declaration and remain the masters of our fate and our fame. All of Great Britain is armed against us. The wealth of the empire is poured into her treasury. We shall weep at our folly. John Dickinson was not a timid or frightened man. He was a great old Quaker patriot, and he had a good argument. At the moment he spoke, British grenadiers were sweeping down from Canada, British guns were bombarding Charleston, and just 90 miles away, an incredible British armada was entering New York Harbor. 500 ships carrying 32,000 troops, the best army in the world. That army could march to Philadelphia and take this building and arrest this Congress any afternoon it chose to do so. So John Dickinson pleaded, let us not brave the storm in a paper boat. The delegates paid him respectful attention. John Adams and his cousin Sam, hot for independence, impatient with the delay, sat over here, listening. Thomas Jefferson sat back here in the corner. He had already written the Declaration of Independence. It spoke his thoughts. Beside him here, old Benjamin Franklin, also silent, his mind made up. But every mind was not made up. Pennsylvania and South Carolina were opposed to independence. Delaware divided, New York undecided. All through the spring and into the summer, they had sat here and wrangled, their tempers growing hot with the season. Young Edward Rutledge of South Carolina, who sat here, had said of John Adams and the New Englanders, they will bring us ruin. I dread their low cunning and those leveling principles which men without character and without fortune possess. And John Adams had said of Rutledge, Ned Rutledge is a perfect bobolink, a swallow, a sparrow, a peacock, excessively vain, excessively weak. Now, Rutledge and Adams and the rest, listen to John Dickinson speaking gravely from the heart. Declaring our independence at a time like this is like burning down our house before we have another. It was John Adams who rose to his feet. He was not John Dickinson's equal as a speaker, and everything he had to say he had said before. He never said it better than on that July afternoon. We have been duped and bubbled by the phantom of peace. What is the real choice before us? If we postpone the declaration, do we mean to submit? Do we consent to yield and become a conquered people? No, we do not. We shall fight. We shall fight with whatever means we have, with rusty muskets and broken flints, with bows and arrows if need be. Then why put off the declaration? For myself, I can only say this. I have crossed the Rubicon. All that I have, all that I am, all that I hope for in this life, I stake on our cause. For me, the die is cast. Sink or swim, live or die, to survive or perish with my country, that is my unalterable resolution. That night, John Dickinson went home, put on his militia uniform, and rode away to join his regiment. He could not vote for independence, but he could fight the British. That night, Edward Rutledge changed his mind. South Carolina would not stand in the way of unanimity. That night, Caesar Rodney, a man dying of cancer, rode through the night on horseback in a storm to Philadelphia to cast the deciding vote for Delaware. And so when Secretary Charles Thompson called the roll on July 2nd of the 12 colonies voting, all 12 declared for independence. It was done. What remained was the declaring it. The next morning, July 3rd, an anonymous note was found up here on President Hancock's table. It said, "You have gone too far. Take care. A plot is framed for your destruction, and all of you shall be destroyed." It suddenly occurred to them that there might be a lighted powder keg under this floor. There was an uproar. There were volunteers to search the cellar. Then crusty old Joseph Hughes of North Carolina, who sat here, stood up to say, "Mr. President, I am against wasting any time searching cellars. I would as soon be blown to pieces as proclaim to the world that I was frightened by a note." Without searching any cellars, the Continental Congress proceeded to a consideration of the Declaration of Independence. They are immortal words now, but of course they weren't when Charles Thomson read them for the first time, when, in the course of human events, and for 2 days Jefferson sat back there in the corner and fumed as they all toyed with his masterpiece. Did we really have to call the king a tyrant quite so often? They changed some of the tyrants back to king. Did we have to bid the British people our everlasting adieu? They struck that out. And Jefferson's mightiest passage, his denunciation of slavery, that was struck out too at the insistence of Georgia and South Carolina. Jefferson wrote elsewhere, "Nothing is more certainly written in the book of fate than that these people are to be free." But finally, all the cuts and changes were done, and what remained was a document still noble enough to inspire the tired delegates and bold enough to hang them all. It was read through one more time to the end. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. There was one final vote, and President Hancock announced the result with the use of a new phrase: "The Declaration of the United States of America is unanimously agreed to." There was no cheering, no fireworks, not yet. The delegates simply walked out into the night of the 4th of July thinking their own thoughts, some of them, no doubt, remembering what John Dickinson had said: "This is like burning down our house before we have another." Others hearing Tom Paine: "The birthday of a new world is at hand. We have it in our power to begin the world all over again." John Adams walked to his boarding house to write a letter to a friend. "Well," he said, "the river is passed. The bridge is cut away."